So me doing the creative direction mostly, and like style frames, and trying to get like the visual direction, and a great team of usually amazing 3D artists that I was just a fan of, been working together and collaborating to execute it. But I think that if you're opening like your own studio in a similar way to mine, which is at the beginning with no even big physical location to have, like it's all virtually in a way, and it's all count on the work you produce and the quality of it. So I think like if someone is doing that, you have to be really on the top of your standard in terms of how you deliver things and how you handle clients.
Hi man, hi Yambo, nice to meet you, and I'm super happy to welcome you here on the Motion Designer Community YouTube channel. And I would like to ask you as a first question, like, what is your name? Is it possible to know it, or we should call you Yambo?
Absolutely, yeah. So first of all, I'm super happy to be here, and thanks for having me and inviting me to this conversation. And my actual name is Yam, which is sea in Hebrew. My dad used to go to the sea a lot and fishing, so that's the source for the name. And Yambo is just a nickname that got stuck with me around a decade ago, just by a friend, which called me that way, and I took the name and embraced it to the old work and everything related to the output which I was doing over the past decade. So yeah, that's pretty much so you can call me either Yam or Yam, but it's absolutely fine either way.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I didn't know, and yeah, I was really curious about that. So yeah, we'll call you Yam. It's more maybe personal. So Yam, if you could maybe introduce yourself to designer who may not be familiar with your work, that could be cool.
So my name is Yam. I'm 33 years old. I have two girls and a beautiful wife called Ronnie. And pretty much I'm dealing with 3D and motion design in general for around a decade, seriously. So around a decade ago, I was working as a motion designer that doing mostly 2D work at a local studio in Tel Aviv, which was doing mostly broadcast stuff for the local TVs. And I was really into 3D at the time, just trying to learn a new skill, and it kind of drew my attention as I was dealing just with graphic design and communication design. And I sat inside a room with two amazing 3D artists, which I learned a lot from them at this time. Around 2014, I decided to try to start my own independent way. So I left the studio, and it was also a time where GPU rendering and specifically Octane render was a new thing, and it was very exciting because I was working with V-Ray at the studio, and sitting in front of the computer and waiting for the buckets to write slowly. That was the way to pretty much render an image. And when Octane launched, I decided to like, it was looking very exciting from the videos I saw and like in the Octane forum and stuff, and I was decided to invest in the first like GPU oriented machine. It was I think a 780 cards at the time, and I bought it from. I'm going a bit too deep in your question, but feel free to stop me if it's going off topic.
No, it's all good. Yeah, it's interesting.
So I was looking for someone that will build this machine for me, and it was really impossible to find someone that know GPU rendering in Israel because it was a very new thing back then. So I reached out to someone from the Otoy forum called Sebastian Michalski from Poland. Some might know him as a WS Computer, as he's been building amazing GPU-oriented machines over the past decade. But I was basically his first client because he was also looking into get into that. So he built the first machine for me, sent it from Poland to Tel Aviv, and I was kind of blown by how fast I was able to work in 3D and mostly design in 3D. So at this time I didn't really know 3D artists, which was also responsible from the design side of things. It was mostly executing the at least at studios, executing what the designers mocked up in 2D, or and like design and doing motion in 3D at the same time was kind of new thing, at least at my close circle. So I decided that this would be my forte, this would be my thing, and I tried to take the time and like build a portfolio within Octane and Cinema 4D, basically. And I think that's the time I launched my first like visual identity. So it was like ID I made in 2015, and that brought kind of nice response from the world as I was sharing it in different channels and stuff, and some like actual work started to come from just posting the self-initiated work. And from that point in time, it was a process of iteration and trying to find bigger clients, and I can tell you more about this probably soon, but that's like how I started and just iterated on the same thing since back then till this day, which I'm still using Cinema 4D, Redshift and Octane mainly, but working a lot with people and global collaboration, which is a kind of important thing for me and the way I grew up into this industry and find like bigger opportunities.
Yeah, because that's really interesting. Like Yambo, do you have like designers working with you full time, or it's mainly freelancer?
Exactly at the time when I was iterating on like being good with the new render engine and trying to get some interesting work done, the whole idea of collaborating with people was very appealing. So I think at the time one of the first projects was a collaboration I did with Anthony Todisco for Nike, which is a project that he brought to the table, and he needed some help with the motion and animation. So he asked me if I want to take this production together, and we took two other freelancers, and this was like the first time me from Tel Aviv, Anthony from Germany, and two other guys from Spain pretty much just executed the job like that, and Nike was very happy, and the final result was great, and I felt like it's a great opportunity to try to take this and scale it up. And since then I was trying to take bigger and bigger projects based on the same idea. So me doing the creative direction mostly, and like style frames and trying to get like the visual direction, and a great team of usually amazing 3D artists that I was just a fan of, been working together and collaborating to execute it. Nowadays, we got like few internal employees. So there is myself, there is Clem, which is doing all the production work, and also some creative work as well. There is Aicha, who is an intern in the studio. So like we got some full-time employees, but in terms of 3D artists and the people that work on each production, it's pretty much this network of artists which are living in our Discord. And every time there is a new production, I'm sending a message in the jobs channel asking who's available and interested. This is the brief and the treatment we did, and blah, blah, blah. And just assembling a team like that. And we got our own workflow after some time of doing that, of trying to make it efficient and onboarding people, very efficiently, and try to get the process of someone new that even didn't work with us before, easily familiar with the process and be able to jump into the files and do all the work. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting to go like a bit deeper into this workflow, because it's pretty unique way of running a studio. And yeah, like could you please tell us more a bit about this workflow and the creative process, and how you include new collaborator into your workflow, and how you deal with freelancer, managing your storage, or how to make sure like the output is really high, even if you don't have like any employee, but everybody is kind of aware of the work of how Yambo's is processing. Could you please tell us a bit more about the workflow?
Yeah, sure. So first, I think it's worth saying that nowadays it's not rare as it used to be to collaborate with people. All the big studios like Tendril, Future Deluxe, Metaverse Machine are already working those days with great freelancers, from a distance, because we have this opportunity of people to choosing their freedom, and studios want to have the very best people to work with them. As I mentioned, like when I was started with this, it was very rare and not the common way to do it. So we had to like pave the way and find like the best workflow. And it's funny because we're using kind of simple tools, but in an efficient way. And I can tell you a bit about that. So first of all, in terms of 3D, we're using Cinema 4D files stored on Dropbox. We have a Dropbox business account with unlimited storage. So every time there is a new production, we open a folder. We got the whole folder structure. And what we mostly make sure is to have all the right versions between all the team members and save all the textures and file relatively. So whenever someone is opening a file, if you'll go inside Redshift or Octane and you see the path of the texture, so it always will be like .. and the file location to go folder up or down, and keep it relative and not absolute. That way things not breaking up between people. And then for the overall communication and just like commenting and do the daily work. So we're using a bunch of tools. We're using Figma to prepare all the client decks, as Figma is just a great design tools, and it's replacing previously been using like Slides or Pitch or some other services to create treatments. But Figma giving you unlimited options with the design, and it's really handy tool. So we're doing all the, like, for example, if we're having a style frames delivery at the end of the week, so the team is putting all the frames in Figma, and me and Clem organizing them in a deck and then sending it to the client by the end of the week. For internal commenting, we're using Frame.io, which is just a tool I'm using for a long time already.
Yeah.
And it's just great to comment on video, to upload the daily cut and edit, and just put all the comments for the team and tag them. And recently we've been starting to use Milanote, which is an evolution of Miro, if people might know it. It's like it was like a whiteboard kind of thing, and now they got a nice organization. So you can onboard people, and like you have the main board with the frame per second of the project, how many deliverables, like all the details that people need in terms of like currency for D and Redshift versions or whatever we want to communicate to everyone. So we're always trying to follow up with new services and make sure it's very efficient and smooth. But in terms of the workflow, it's pretty much just having everyone works on Dropbox, having our own naming conventions for the files, so we'll know who worked on the last files and organization of the folders, and then communicating via Discord and Figma and Frame.io and Milanote, and trying to shrink it a bit those days, because it could be too much for new people sometimes, indeed. But each one is handy for a different thing. So I think it's a lot about communication. You know, the people that are having a good success of a working relation is those that are communicate. They saying at the end of the day what they did, even they didn't complete it much, and they asking questions and showing process. And when there isn't good communication online, there are people that used to grow up in front of a computer and communicate very easily, but there are some that it's different for them not to communicate verbally. So I think it's a lot about that. And that's like, sometimes I was trying to work with amazing people I was a fan of, and it didn't really work well because of the communication. And sometimes the other way around, there are people which are I won't say average, but okay and good, or got a decent quality, and they're just starting on like first year of doing 3D, but they got amazing communication skills, and it's really helping the flow. So I would say that's pretty much about like the way we work.
Yeah, this could be an advice for young designer, maybe starting as a freelancer, like to be to work on your communication skill, and also like it's pretty important. And is there like any advice you could give to someone who would like to launch their studio pretty similar way of you're doing, like or mistakes you should avoid? I think like communication, like you mentioned, and having like pretty organized workflow is one of a big advice and really important. And is there like any mistake you did in the past and you could like maybe tell us, so we could like for people who want to launch the studio, avoid making them?
Yeah, there are two things I can think of. One is the idea of each job that you'll take probably will bring a similar job on your way. So try to always focus on like what you want to achieve. When we were doing fun spots in 2017, the first one for Xiaomi was quite success because we were really putting a lot of effort into it, and it was the biggest project ever did with a global team. So it was like, I think 26 people, including all the people that was working partially. It was too much. I never did such a big production because it got some downsides, but that brought like 2 years of fun commercials for Oppo and Vivo and OnePlus. So it was nice from one hand, but I always saw it on my career when choosing a different client. This pretty much bring in the same kind of jobs. And I know that not everyone got the freedom to choosing the clients, obviously. Also, we are struggling to finding the stuff that we want to work on. But always keeping that in mind and having the try to focus on what would be right for your path. I think it's a good tip. And maybe a second one is around the. So we spoke about communication and how it's good to be communicative. But I think that if you are opening like your own studio in a similar way to mine, which is at the beginning with no even big physical location to have like it's all virtually in a way, and it's all count on the work you produce and the quality of it. So I think like if someone is doing that, you have to be really on the top of your standard in terms of how you deliver things and how you handle clients. Because if a client have the opportunity to work either with myself or I don't know, I don't want to compare, but Future Deluxe on the very high hand. So my effort is always to be the best in the game in terms of like the communication with the client, the quality of the delivery, the effort we're making, the budget we put on the size of the team, which for us I think is much higher because we can put a lot of the budget on daily rates of very talented artists and try to be the value within how the output would look like and not like how the studio it is. So I think if someone is starting this way, it's important to understand that you need to play it very well in order to try to take to be on the same level and compete with the big studios. And that's what I always trying to do, to try to build a studio which is much more smaller in a way than those, but still try to compete them within the work quality. And compete is not the right way, but you get what I mean. Trying to to be in a good level of quality, and I think it worked out in the long term. So I think that's probably might be a good tip for someone that's just starting a studio.
Yeah, and thank you so much for all of this advice. And I'm wondering, let's go back to the Xiaomi project, you've done with this big project. How they discover your work, and how did you manage to get this client? Because, a lot of us new studios would love to get this kind of client and this kind of project. So, which kind of how you've managed to get this kind of client, and what's advice you could give them to get top clients like that one?
So I think it's pretty much a very similar example to what I just mentioned and described, because the Xiaomi opportunity arrived for us as an opportunity, which I'll explain to you in a moment. But what I try to do is take this opportunity and do the best I can and put all my efforts in doing something great that will bring some more of those. So I think that's pretty much what people try to do. Try to take opportunities that come to their hands, and I'll explain about the opportunity in a moment, but it's very random. It could happen with so many different things, and just try to do the best to prove to the client that you can do it in a very good quality or something like that. But I was in communication with Somai. Somai is this amazing Chinese designer which was doing a lot of fun spot at a time for Oppo. And he was having the opportunity with Xiaomi, but didn't have the capacity to take the whole project. So initially he reached out to me and asked me if we want to help with some shots, and I was just offering that he could let us take the whole job and oversee us in terms of the creative, and that's what we did. And Xiaomi was super happy with the result, and they brought another project, and it's pretty much just continuing in that way. So it was just an opportunity of helping with few shots for a friend that was doing a spot for Xiaomi, and from that we kind of grew up into working with them for like 2-3 years in a very close manner. So yeah.
But may I ask, like, did you work inside studios before, or you directly jumped into like? Okay, so yeah,
I was working inside studios, but only locally here in Tel Aviv. So been working in a bunch of places when I was doing either real-time graphics or like 3D and 2D After Effects work. And yes, I told you, like the last studio I was working at, I was sitting in the same room with great 3D artists, which told me a lot. And since then, I was just continuing independently to learn cinema 4D. I was always like learning by myself, so I never went into university or even don't have like proper education from the high school. So it's all, just independently trying to get the information and learn and iterate, and
yeah. And I'm asking you that because I'm really curious how Yambo's website looks like at the beginning. Is more like your personal project you put in it? How Yambo's portfolio looks like at the beginning? Like it was more like the project you've done in the studios or your personal project?
Yeah, so I think the portfolio, the website overall was always like my holy grail of where to put the effort, because eventually for a studio that is virtual in a way, I mean not really virtual, but in terms of like the size of the company and the output of the work, I always felt, and even before that the website should be where I should put the most effort. So it was always a lot of self-initiated projects. So at the beginning, I think that there was like half self-initiated stuff and half like client works, which I was doing, and like some like studios I was working for, or some just little thing I was doing by myself, and I think that like even right now we're working on a brand new website, which will actually include some of my like artistic path, some working on some sculptures and trying to, and I can tell you more about that was mostly because kind of a burn I was having last year from working a lot of the computer and then trying to find what's next. But before jumping into that, I will just tell you for a moment about the website. So I always was trying to put more effort, more like resources and even budget with development, and to try to get a very unique and interesting website, because I felt that what could cause like track the attention of people, just to present the way in the most appealing way. So for me, it's something that was always super important. And yeah, as you said at the beginning, it was just trying to find the best works done and put it out there. And whenever there was like a new big client, we was trying to create a director cut, which will present like the ideal way we can show the work to the world, because not always the client version is what you are happy with and what you feel comfortable to put in your portfolio. So it was always putting this extra effort at the end to take what we created for the client and create a nice version to present to the world based on like our agenda and what we believe.
Thank you for this advice. I think it's going to help a lot of young designers for sure. And let's go back to your project. You mentioned the sculpture project, or like it's kind of a pottery project. May I know more about it? Like it's a really interesting one.
So almost 2 years ago, not 1.5 year ago, all the NFT space started to boom, and there was a new thing around artists that releasing their digital works. And I was finding this opportunity very interesting in terms of building something new in this world, and taking the community that built up around me in a way, and to levitate them into something new. So I pretty much decided to put all the studio work on hold, and build Disrupt. And Disrupt was, frankly, it was today, but Disrupt was an NFT platform that supposed to help digital artists to release their work in a highly curated way, which will live inside a place which will have this interesting aesthetic, which is very much related to the motion design community and aesthetic. And the beginning was awesome. We launched it September 2021. And artists sold digital assets inside this wrap, over $1.5 million. So it was quite amazing beginning, and the vision seems reasonable. So people pretty much, we were working with artists to release their work in a way which was a bit collaborated. So we were helping with the drop page design and helping with some 3D work sometimes for artists that are more coming from the physical space. And I was very much exposed to a lot of artists at this time. Eventually what happened is that the whole crash of the market really blew it up for us, and the investors decided to pull up the investment at August 2022. So I find myself, after a year, I spent tons of time on this platform and everything that we've built, and I had this need to move away from the computer for a moment, because I had no interest on jumping into Cinema 4D anymore, and it was felt like something you must do, and I always like to listen to the internal voice of what you should do next. So just by intuition, I was starting to play with clay and material, older materials and glazes, and bought a kiln here outside to burn all the ceramics, and then started to play with 3D printing and try to evolve the print in a way that will be combined with all the clay and sculpture stuff. And it evolved into a series of objects. I felt like I was always, even within my self-initiated 3D stuff, working on objects. So if you look at Behance and see the older self-initiated stuff which I spoke about, it's all different kind of composition sets, object things that are abstract but looks realistic and got the attention to the details of the texture. So I'm pretty much currently applying the same principles that I was exploring in 3D, just try to complete them in the physical way. And it's much harder because you don't have, undo, and you don't have a way to fix stuff that are broken like you can do in 3D. And modeling a simple box could take a half day, which in 3D is a click of a button. So it's very tricky, but it challenged me in a very nice way. It's it's working on the muscle of the patience a lot, because you need to wait. I mean, right now the kiln is working, and it's after 12-hour burn, and it needs another 12 hours to cool down before you can open it. So there is a lot of patience involved overall. And I'm not sure if you can see here, but the printer is always working here and printing stuff, and then I'm trying to work with them. So pretty much trying to build my artistic path side to the whole studio work, and really working by intuition and try to create sculpture which I love visually. And hopefully I don't know, in a few months or in here, I'll do the first solo exhibition somewhere and try to find opportunities to show those sculptures to the world. And they also are part of the new website, which is currently in development and hopefully will be done in a month or two. And then there is a whole section for them, so I'll be able to just finish sculptures and put them up there. And that would be kind of a replacement to the laboratory I was having on all the previous websites. So there was always a lab section with just experiment and stuff. And currently the experiments are physically, because I enjoying not having 12 hours a day in front of the computer, but having 4 hours, 5 hours top lately, and then for the rest just creating with my hands, which is very satisfying.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have other activities other than computer work or even video game. I don't know, we had Simon on the podcast as well, and he really as well taking his bike or his skate and going around London. And I feel it's really important to breathe, to have, and to, I don't know, to have to see something else and to have your brain breathing a bit. And I'm wondering about this pottery, those sculpture. It will be available. It will be on sale as well, or not? Because this could be really interesting, and I'm sure lot of people could be interested, like myself, you know.
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, I would love to have homes for all of them, so they will be for sale. But it's a long way till I'll have those which will be perfect to be because I mean. I think that one of the challenging things is to get something you are happy with. It's also with 3D work and also with like everything that we've been doing before that. And whenever there is like a physical object, the perfection that you used to have from the 3D world is very different to achieve. So I think after like 4 or 5 months, I finally have finishing some first sculptures, and a lot of work been involved for each one of them. So I'm not creating them with any way of like being a smart business in terms of the hours spent. So some sculptures got like lots of hours spent and experiments. So and it's directly related to the fact of like selling them or putting it, because I don't want just to put them for sale on the website. I want them to be honestly just unique and precious objects. And piece of art in a way. So I need to build a strategy and think how to do it properly. But that's definitely the goal. And I'm mostly focused currently on creating them in the level I want rather than thinking how to sell them. So I'm not prepared with a proper answer for this one. But obviously it would be very amazing to see them inside people, homes and galleries or whatever the opportunities would bring.
Yeah, it's like super interesting, and I love like the same as you. I kind of have these ideas as well to bring the digital world into the physical in a way. So maybe with augmented reality prints, with 3D work or stuff like that, or even merch. I don't know. I feel more and more like, I don't know, like people like you and me who like maybe or maybe entrepreneur mindset. So love, like, I think it's some cool ideas to and I don't think it's been made that much to like bring this 3D world into reality, and your sculpture is a way, and I found that really cool.
Yeah, and I think that one of the experience that we had with Disrupt was all the things that we did in that manner. So for example, so Max Salzburg made the drop with us of Salty Heads, which was like a nice headwear digitally, and we did the effort to create all the 3D files for the collector to collect and have them to play inside different metaverses and stuff that. But frankly, what we realized is that the idea was ready before the technology was ready. So you can't really take a 3D object and really enjoy it and wear it inside games and stuff. The first drop that we did was digital garments that were available in a game, like in Sansar. So we took a simple game and implemented the garment and let people to pretty much buy it and then use it inside the game. So I really love this idea, and this is one of the reasons we started Disrupt. But I think what we found out is that it's quite early, even that it seems like the technology is very advanced those days, but people can't really, buy something and enjoy it within the digital world in a way that will be immersive enough, I feel. But I think it's definitely the path. And what I'm trying to do right now with my sculptures is just bring this connection in a very simple, but I think way that trigger emotion in a way, because when you see something inside the screen and it's moving and it's got this whole dynamic world around it, it's a real dynamic world, and then you see like a piece which is made by glass and ceramic and things that are feeling like very like physical, the attachment to something physical is different than the way we attach to something digital. So I think this connection and the intersection between of those words is what's interesting for me, and I'm trying to explore it currently.
Yeah. So right now, like Yambo's commercial projects are on pause, or
it was on pause while Disrupt was up, because I was fully invested in Disrupt. But then last year, on August when Disrupt stopped, so I decided to put all the efforts back on getting energy in one end, and then continue to work within the studio in a smaller scale at the beginning, and slowly like scaling up and finding the balance in life between those two things I love, the client works and collaborating with people and meeting people. And it's kind of like even cultural thing for me to just speak with people all day and knowing new people and having a good project, making them feel good and me feel good, and we become friends. So I do really want to keep it also because the output and we made something I think good over the past decade, and I don't want to throw it obviously. So we do work for clients those days, just in a smaller scale. So we've been working with 2 companies mainly over the past 3 or 4 months. So one of them is SafePal, which is a movie we released, and it's currently available only on Behance because it will be up only on the new website, not on the older one. And the other one is for AutoStore. An AutoStore, people might know them from beautiful spots Tendril made for them. It's a Norwegian robots company which is dealing with logistics, and we've been doing 3 movies for them actually since the beginning of the year, and the collaboration is quite awesome. So we're working together with Ocker Studio from Norway, and with AutoStore, and it's been a great experience to work with them. Quite refreshing and different, and the 3D side is quite heavy, so there are some interesting challenges, but overall, definitely not pausing the studio work, just trying to find a good balance in life and bending my artistic path, because it was always a passion and like the art-oriented stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And we were talking before about advanced technology, and it's definitely changing the design game all the time. And can you tell us if or how you're using AI on or other tools on a daily basis? Are you using it for your commercial project or even your sculpture creations? Is it into your workflow? Did you implement it or not yet? Or you just playing with Midjourney or DALL-E?
So I was lucky enough to get an early access to DALL-E before it was open to the public, and I was playing with it a lot at the beginning because it felt even uniquer when no one had access and it was only a group of designers which they onboarded. So it feels like, what is this crazy tool which you can pretty much create anything by prompt, and it was really mind-blowing. I was at the beginning posting dailies on Instagram of just exploring in DALL-E, and then starting to play with Midjourney, and then everyone started to play with DALL-E and Midjourney, and then we saw a lot of AI stuff going on. So I decided to step out for a moment and try to understand what's the way I want to work with it inside my workflow. And currently I'm using it mostly for the sculpt creation. And what I did is basically using Stable Diffusion 1 and 0.5 and 2 within a friend's company, which helped me upload all the work from the past year. So we took 1,000 imagery, split them into folders by a topic, and then let the machine learn my style in a way, and been using it to just iterate on sculptures ideas. So writing something, create sculptures that based on blah 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 that trigger this emotion, and just having random stuff to let the machine output, and having a library of 100 images, then picking 1 or 2, deciding what would be possible or interesting to create, and then try to sculpt it, and assisting the AI that been learning from my own body of work to create something new. And I find this interesting, but honestly not using AI within the studio work currently, and I think we just didn't have the need for that, because it was more clear working with getting some ideas and execute them. So but I think for the ideas creation, it's definitely interesting to try this as well. I just didn't have
for pitch decks or stuff like that.
Exactly. So I think we will need to see how we can implement that. It's definitely an interesting thing to do, and I see many people and friends doing it already in production work. So currently messing mostly with the sculpture because it's the most interesting for me, but I think it's something that is like, if I need to say something about it, I feel it's not smart to hate it. It's not smart to say, I don't want to see it. It's ruining graphic designers, and it's ruining, because it's here and you need to find a way to embrace it and not fight it. That's my perspective. Yeah.
Agree.
Any other artists or studios that inspire you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many. There are leaders from the 3D community like 6 and 5 and Andres Reisinger and people that I was always like a big fan of in terms of their like 3D output, visual citizens, and I mean I can say so many. Lately, I've been inspired a lot by like artists that work in different times and sculptors like Ron Nagel or Ken Price, or so pretty much just trying to look in different disciplines and different fields. I feel it's really refreshing. I was used to wake up, grab my coffee, open Behance, scroll and see everything new on Behance, and then move to Vimeo and see everything in all the groups and likes and just add the things I like to my liked in Vimeo and collect like this collection of inspiration boards and Pinterest. And so I did this for many years, and I'm feeling now I just don't want to do it because there is such an overload of beautiful things, and it's not a bad thing, obviously. It just I don't feel like being fed by it every morning. So I'm trying to take inspiration from artists that have been working in other times and been creating interesting stuff. So I'm just buying art books lately of artists I find interesting and just looking through their own like work over the years. And I found something very interesting within that, actually, and I think it's the consistency. It's very interesting to see a consistency of an artist over years, and even where the work is evolving and changing and got different disciplines and different materials, you still can notice the artist involved. And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do and understand those days, is like what is my own body of work and how it looks like, and take all the things that have been done in the early years and try to build like a lifestyle from them, or a legacy in a small one but still one. So yeah, I think that's kind of
many different artists and from different disciplines. That's something we should all do, not being inspired only by one type of work, but by many disciplines or medium. I have like a little speed interview to finish with. Are you ready for this interview, this speed interview?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Alors, entrepreneur or artist?
Artist.
Solo or collaborative project?
Collaborative.
Client or personal project?
Personal project those days.
Instagram or Behance for inspiration?
Instagram.
Physical or digital?
Oh, physical those days.
NFT or AI?
NFT.
CryptoPunk or Bored Ape?
Punks for sure.
To finish, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney or DALL-E?
DALL-E, I find something very interesting within DALL-E specifically visually, even though the last Midjourney is a blast. So, but yeah, that's a quickest response I was able to.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for your answer. Yeah, and there's also Adobe who are launching their own AI tool, Fireflies.
I read something about it, but is it out yet or not yet?
Not yet, I think. I don't think it's launched yet, but I've heard some you can join the waiting list, but it's not available
yet. Yeah.
Nice, interesting to see what they will bring to the table.
Yeah, because that could be pretty useful in Photoshop to just paint a few areas and get your object, change the mood and stuff. That could speed up the workflow. They
just need to rebuild Photoshop, like everything from scratch. It's such a, it feels like they built an awful product and then just try to fix it all the years, and it's still awful in its core. But that's just my perspective.
Yeah, And make your Redshift crashing, right? Because yeah, when you have Adobe software open, it's like yeah, it's never like working properly. It's pretty yeah. Anyway, a lot of people as well are jumping from After Effects to other compositing software. So yeah, I hope the next update's gonna be interesting with AI and to justify the cost. But yeah, it's like really interesting to see how everything is evolving. Like Midjourney also. Midjourney have a lot of big features, and like the new version seems pretty exciting.
Mind blowing. Yeah, the output so really, I mean, crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really exciting, and let's see how everything goes. And maybe next time we could talk more about AI and how if we implement it in our work or not. But thank you so much for this interview, Yam. And where can we find your work?
Thanks so much, Roman. Really awesome to speak with you, and I think it was a very nice conversation, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you for that. You can find my work. You can find the studio work on yambostudio.com mostly, and on Behance. And my own personal Instagram is yambo.eth for the love of crypto and the whole world in general, even though the current time is challenging. So it's yambox.eth. You can probably leave it on the notes or something, but yeah, that's pretty much the main places I'm releasing work. Daily stuff on Instagram and studio output on the studio on the studio website and on Behance. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Thank you, man. See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.